During the Vietnam War, a rather cruel phenomenon called fragging became widespread among American soldiers. These terms began to denote the deliberate murder of an officer by subordinates. Moreover, such cases were passed off as accidents or actions of enemy saboteurs. How did this happen? And why did American officers suffer such a fate? Let's figure it out. In general, the practice of killing officers by soldiers is far from new for the U.S. Army. The first such cases took place during the Civil War, but it became most widespread during the Vietnam War. As you can tell from the name, the most popular method of liquidation of an officer was the standard M26 and M67 grenades. Since, for obvious reasons, they did not leave fingerprints. No less popular was the famous Mina Claymore, although in rather rare cases firearms were also used. Army officers and Marines suffered the most. Fragging was not common in the Navy and Air Force, due to the fact that they did not have such wide access to grenades and other weapons. The first cases of fragging took place in 1966, but 1968 was a turning point. After the Tet Offensive, the Vietnam War was becoming increasingly unpopular. Secondly, in April 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated and racial hatred between whites and blacks, Marines, increased significantly. The morale of the troops was falling every day, which was aggravated by the generation gap, almost free drug trafficking in the units, and the actions of inadequate or overly strict officers were imprinted in the soldiers' memories for a long time. Frequent rotation of the armed forces, especially officers who served on average less than 6 months in command positions, also played a cruel joke, which also reduced the cohesion of military units. Many historians believe that the main reason for fragging was the decline in the quality of conscripts as a result of the program of Defense Secretary McNamara to call up people from disadvantaged and poor strata of society, nicknamed the Moron Corps. After the second wave of reducing the requirements for conscripts, a stream of almost criminals and drug addicts poured into the Army. However, it is worth noting that fragging was more common in rear or support units, and soldiers protected adequate officers like the apple of their eye. In addition, soldiers often threw a non-lethal house grenade or tear gas at an officer as a warning. As for statistics, from 1969 to 1972 there were 900 cases of fragging with 99 fatalities, but most of these incidents were not recorded in the statistics. Despite the fact that the number of U.S. troops in Vietnam in the 1970s was decreasing, the purity of fragging on the contrary increased. Most often, the murders occurred during rest in camp or during combat work in the jungle. An officer would simply have a grenade thrown into his tent, blaming it on an enemy saboteur. Even captured soldiers would deliberately mix up their testimony, leading the investigation to a dead end. As a result, officers would often switch to sleep mode, turn a blind eye to drug use, and it even got to the point of being funny that officers would negotiate with their subordinates to get their consent before going on patrol. As a result of fragging, for example, in 1971 the U.S. Army stopped issuing grenades to its units, confiscating all weapons. Many historians in the U.S. believe that fragging also influenced the U.S. Army's refusal to draft